have Galen here.
That's me.
He is my husband of almost 8 years. Nice sound effects. And together in 2023, we are living uncomfortably happy.
3, 2, 1. We're recording our first podcast. We hope we're going to have 2 people watching to this thing.
Me and you?
Well, actually 3 because of Kitty.
There you go. That would be a success. I think today recording this podcast is very uncomfortably happy. We already deleted a full version of this audio recording because talking to a microphone can be very awkward.
I dropped my heart and she deleted it.
My mantra for 2023 is to live uncomfortably happy.
Yeah,
Are you on that journey with me?
I'm on the journey, yep, absolutely.
Okay, so Galen, how would you describe being uncomfortably happy?
Well, I would say for me, really is starting with something that makes you uncomfortable, such as working out early in the morning, going to run for a couple of miles, you lift weights or whatsoever. And then at the end of that, the result is actually happiness because doing all these activities relates to better mood, focusing, and actually happier state. You exhort happiness. You can just feel it. This is how I understand being uncomfortably happy.
I would add to that, really growth happens when you're uncomfortable. And in today's day and age, I think the most important skill set that you can, or maybe muscle that you can grow, is getting comfortable in the uncomfortable. Knowing that it's going to take you to be uncomfortable to grow, and it's like stretching, right? Like, it's really uncomfortable. I'm, as you guys know, a big runner, and sitting down to stretch hurt like hell. I don't want to do it, but the only way to grow is by stretching out those muscles. Growth is often uncomfortable, and putting ourselves into those positions as often as possible may seem really heavy, but that's kind of the opposite of uncomfortably happy. Why does it make us happy to be uncomfortable? Well, 2 reasons. If you have a vision of where you want to go and you know what it takes in order to get there, there's a lot of joy in that process. So even though the short-term action is very uncomfortable, long-term, you know you're working towards something bigger, which gives you a bunch of joy.
100%. When you're working towards something that you have in your mind and you do something about it and something actually changes, that is going to result to happiness because you're one step closer to what you want to achieve.
I've actually noticed that this week. Sometimes reading can be uncomfortable. The act of, oh, I could be doing X, Y, and Z instead, but I'm going to focus my attention on reading.
Yep.
But this weekend, I've been reading, and it's almost like a balance act. On one hand, it's uncomfortable in the moment, but I also at the same time feel like a pride because I know it's in alignment to who I want to be. So it almost cancels each other out, and you're just like at peace with what action you're doing.
100%. And how you felt before started reading, very uncomfortable because you knew you had to read a lot, right? But then when you got that activity done, you're happy, correct?
Yeah. The second part of uncomfortably happy and what it means to me is, I think we have to touch before we move on to the next thing, is celebrating the process and your progress. So falling in love with the journey of growth, even if it's messy. When you're on this journey of doing uncomfortable things, what you don't want it to turn into is this heavy feeling of grinding. Found a lot of value in just lifting my head up instead of just being down in the grind. Eventually, you're gonna burn out and get tired, and it doesn't feel good. The whole purpose of this living uncomfortably happy is like sticking your head up, seeing the good, celebrating those small daily things that you're accomplishing, and that builds momentum and like energy to keep you going. So that you don't burn out.
Well, I just think that, like Jacquelyn said at the very beginning, is nothing changes, nothing changes. There's so many people that are saying it in books, successful people. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If you're scrolling on Instagram, on TikTok, and all these social medias, and you're looking at people that are runners and makes you feel happy for 1 second, that is not what's gonna set you on the path to be uncomfortably happy. You actually have to start doing something yourself in order to get a little uncomfortable, but then after you're done with this uncomfortable activity, you actually feel happy.
So that we get to know you better, Galen, do you have an existing habit or activity that is allowing you to live uncomfortably happy?
Absolutely. The first thing that actually comes to mind is my leg workout, because most of the workouts that I do for my legs are very uncomfortable. They're very physically demanding, and if you do not train your brain to want to be comfortable and knowing that when you're comfortable you're going to be happy, I'll probably not do that.
So, you know, for me, that running has always been just kind of my cornerstone habit. And what I mean by that is, like, if I have my running habit in check, the rest, all of the other good habits kind of fall in place. But that doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable. It's something that I'm more comfortable being uncomfortable with. I know that kind of pain. I know what running pain feels like when I'm running fast. I know my lungs are going to burn, my legs are going to ache, but I know I'm going to live. I know at the end of the day, I might be sore for a day, but after that, it's going to be okay.
You're just adding benefits.
But running for me has always been that habit that I learned how to live uncomfortably happy. There's such joy in the process for me for running, because I see the progress so quickly. And I think that's where I started realizing uncomfortably happy so early on, is I'm like, okay, if I get uncomfortable and I do the speed workouts, I can directly see that my 400 times get faster. And there's joy in, like, okay, can I be uncomfortable in the moment for like this long-term gain? Running has always been uncomfortably happy for me. I can go out and run in freezing temperatures because I know that that action, although very uncomfortable, is in the direction of who I want to be.
And that's exactly back to it. You kind of have a vision of yourself, and nothing deters it. No snowstorms, tornadoes, or whatsoever. You're out there doing your thing.
I think what's really important to this podcast and sharing this journey is we're not experts. We are right along with you on this journey of living uncomfortably happy. Both Glenn and I are really in the last year, 2 years, have grown as humans like tremendously. Yep. Yes, we're not at step 0 of living uncomfortably happy, as we've already tried many tools in incorporating new habits that have stretched us. Yep. But we have so far to go in terms of integrating these big actions and habits that will get us to where we want to go. So in this podcast, we'd love to take you on the journey week by week to show you what are we actually implementing this week. And it can be really small, but this is going to keep us really honest. My uncomfortably happy for this week was to start this podcast. So it's not official yet until I post it, until I share it with all 3 people that Glenn thinks are going to listen.
3 people out there. Shout out to whoever decides to spend 15 minutes to listen to that president speech.
But dang, this was super uncomfortable because, one, talking in front of a mic in general, you just stutter over your words, and putting yourself out there. You guys know me as runner first, but really running is a tool for me in order to live uncomfortably happy. So as you go about this journey, you'll learn more about myself and all of the things I use to live uncomfortably happy, not just a runner. With that, Glenn, what action are you wanting to incorporate this week to live more uncomfortably happy?
I would say reversing my schedule and fixing my schedule, rather. I've been sleeping in quite some, and that makes me uncomfortably unhappy.
How does waking up early stretch you? How is it uncomfortable?
It is uncomfortable because you're in your bed, you're very warm, you're snuggling like with your animal or with your significant other, and then you actually have to stand up, move these legs. It's cold, it's very uncomfortable, it's dark. but yet you have to do it.
So how are you going to feel good about this uncomfortably happy action?
By the time that everyone else are awake, I would have read my book and I would have done my stretches, and that simply is definitely going to put me in a spot where I'm extremely happy.
I think on top of that, there's something that this week I've been really thinking about is keeping promises to yourself. I think this podcast, not only are we sharing at the start of a week what we want to integrate, but following through on a promise that you made to yourself is going to feel really good in building your confidence. So besides the actual action itself, it's only reinforcing that you can do hard things. I would say that's something you can celebrate as just like, even if you wake up and do it twice, we'll see. We'll check in on you next week. But there'll be so much to celebrate just that you've kept that promise to yourself.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you guys are going to be doing. The people that are listening to this podcast, you're on this journey with us. And really the most powerful tool that I've experienced since starting social was the power of having a network working on something together. So I do have a free group chat on Instagram that we're tackling Uncomfortably Happy in 2023. So just DM me and I'm happy to add you to that group. We just lend an ear and a cheer. So we're not going to criticize you for not doing anything. We're literally just here to celebrate your wins and listen when things are hard, because it's going to be hard when it's uncomfortable. Secondly, tell me what you're working on. I want to know. So maybe you're not ready to open up to a group, but DM me. Let me know what activity you're incorporating, or if you have questions on our journey. That's the whole point of social media.
For all these people there that are feeling lonely and they don't have, let's call it, motivation, they're not driven, join a place where you're surrounded by a community, because this community will actually excite you to do something. You can just join, start reading, engage, but find somebody to get you through life. Find somebody to help you with that motivation for you to put your shoes on and go out there and run, to put your t-shirt and pants so you can start doing push-ups or crunches or whatsoever. You need to join a community so that way you're not by yourself.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the joy that you feel when other people are growing alongside you. Everyone in the Uncomfortably Happy group chat, when they do a new class, when they apply for that new job, when it's in alignment to what you want to do, it's so much empathy, and there's so much joy in seeing like it's possible to achieve the things that, not even if they're the same things, it's just the same emotion that you're seeking, is really powerful.
100%.
All right, with that, see you next week.
That was our first podcast ever, so
see you next week.
Yeah. Great job. See you next week. Stay uncomfortably happy.